Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for February's Neat and Tangled Copic coloring tutorial. Today we're going to be coloring this cute little beaver, and I wanted to kind of just talk a little bit about light source and where to put the shadows. So I always like to tell my students, where does the shadows mostly make sense, especially coloring little critters outside and anything really. I mean, there's light usually all around us. So if you're new to Copics or you're new to coloring, just ask yourself, where does the shadow mostly make sense? So for this beaver, underneath her face here, closer to her neck, is going to be shadowed, and all underneath behind this little mouse that she's carrying, because the mouse is going to cast a shadow onto her body. And of course, where her little skirt is on her legs, there's going to be a little shadow underneath there, and then right in here where her tail is, and all along the bottom part of her tail, and all along the bottom part of her arms. So you don't really want, I always see, and we kind of go back to when we were kids and when we first started coloring, how you just kind of outline the image. And you don't really want to do that. You just want to kind of shadow underneath certain things just to make it seem more 3D. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to get started. I'm going to be using E23, E33, E31, and E30 for her fur. So I'm going to start with my E23, and like I said before, I'm going to be shadowing underneath the face right in here. So I'm just going to come up along the sides and along the side over here, and I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow underneath her ears and all along the bottom part of her arm and underneath her neck, underneath the arm, onto the body, and over here as well. This is another arm that's kind of hugging the little mouse, so all along the bottom of that arm too, underneath her skirt, and we're gonna go all along the bottom part that's closest to her body for the tail, and up the side of along the bottom. So those are gonna be the shadowed areas. And now I'm gonna move down through the colors. So I'm gonna get my E33, and I'm gonna push the color out. A lot of people always ask me, why do I choose to color from dark to light? And it's because I feel like I can use less ink and I have more control of the ink if I push with each new lighter color, push it into the lighter area. So now I'm just going to kind of go along the side of every place that I've added the shadow. And here I go again, pushing that dark into the light, and with each new lighter color I'm coming up just a little bit more where it kind of tapers off. So let's go underneath her skirt, and now I'm going to take my E31 and again just keep pushing those colors until we're filling in the rest of her fur. And if you run out of room, of course you're going to run out of room. But if you don't have enough room for that next lighter color, you don't even worry about it. Just continue just filling in. So now I'm going to start coming up around here because I do want there to be a little bit of a shadow up here, just so it makes her face appear round. So I'm going to take my E30 and continue moving, pulling that color in, filling in the rest of the area that's not colored. So I'm going to leave that lightest area right there in the center of her face. Forgot to color her feet here. Let me finish that. And the reason why I leave a white area, because I always like to go back and add a second coat of coloring. This really gets the colors moving. That way if you feel like your image looks kind of blotchy and like you don't have enough ink down, so it's not really blending the colors, by adding another layer of ink really gets those colors moving, so that way it starts to blend better on the paper. So that was my E23. Now I'm going to go back with my E33 and continue going down that same pattern of colors that we just laid down. And now I'm going to go with my E31, do the same thing. Okay. And now with my E30, this time I will fill in the rest of the white. But since I left this area white to begin with, now when I go back to do this last coat, it's gonna stay the lightest. If I would have went over it before and then went back over it, it would have been a little bit darker. And that's how you can get that really dark to light gradient or contrast in when you're coloring your images. Alright, so that's how I color my images, the basic shadows. Just kind of think about where the shadows mostly make sense. Makes your image pop off the page, and I hope you guys will join me again next month. Thank you. See you later.